Longtime senior WWE executive Kevin Dunn has reportedly given notice that he is set to leave WWE at the end of this year. Plenty of details on this huge story that is seemingly going to shape the future of WWE moving forward. The Devil was finally revealed at AEW World's End. We'll let you know details about that. Samoa Joe is the brand new AEW World Champion. MJF is expected to take some time off, and we might have a brand new AEW World Championship belt design. Andrade El Idolo lost to Miro last night after CJ Perry turned on him, but there's plenty more details surrounding his future of AEW, with it now looking likely that that was his final match inside of an All Elite Wrestling ring. In fact, some are expecting him to return to WWE as soon as tomorrow on Monday Night Raw. Eddie Kingston wins the inaugural Continental Classic at World's End. Christian Cage loses and then reclaims the TNT Championship against Adam Copeland. Sting wins in his 8-man tag team match. Julia Hart retains the TBS Championship, and Swerve Strickland defeats Dustin Rhodes after Keith Lee was pulled from World's End on medical grounds. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. Happy New Year. This is recorded at the time on New Year's Eve, but if you're watching tomorrow, or if you're just watching in the build-up to the big countdown, Happy New Year, or if you've already celebrated New Year's actually at the time of watching this, Happy New Year. Let's get straight into the world of professional wrestling. Let's get straight into the biggest news stories in the world of professional wrestling, and the biggest one really shaping the future of WWE is the impending departure of Kevin Dunn. Yes, Kevin Dunn, one of the most influential executives in WWE history, is leaving the company. It was a story that was broken late last night by Mike Johnson from PW Insider. Now, Dunn, who had held the post of executive producer and chief global television distribution, informed WWE around Christmas this week that he was exiting after more than 3 decades with the company. Now, PW Insider have been told that a big factor in his decision to retire is changes made internally post-Endeavor acquisition, as one source stated, quote, that Dunn was, quote, never going to do anything that was dictated to him, end quote, as opposed to how he personally oversaw production in the past. Now, PW Insider have been told that this was not an issue of creative, but 2 differing versions of how things should be run from a TV production perspective, as WWE's new owner seeks to cut costs. While there had been rumors of his departure really a number of times in recent years, the company at no point ever asked Kevin Dunn to leave. In fact, quite the opposite. Dunn had been asked to stay on by the WWE Board of Directors when Vince McMahon initially retired back in July of last year. All that said, Dunn's exit is not so much shocking, as it's often been whispered over the years that he never intended to work for anyone other than Vince McMahon in WWE, and McMahon's power has greatly waned since the company was acquired by Endeavor as part of TKO Group Holdings. Still, the departure has massive ramifications, as Dunn, more than anyone not named McMahon or Levesque, was very much responsible for the vibe, the feel, and the production of the WWE product over the last several decades. From 1993 on, when Monday Night Raw began on USA Network, Dunn was named executive producer of all WWE programming, overseeing the style of WWE production that has been the hallmark of what the casual fan believes professional wrestling should look and feel like. To the average person flipping through the channels, WWE and pro wrestling as a genre are one and the same, and that's because of Kevin Dunn's really vision for how pro wrestling should be actually presented on TV. Certainly, Kevin Dunn, as I mentioned, has been working for WWE for over 3 decades, certainly. Now, there will undoubtedly be those who celebrate Dunn's exit, as he represents what WWE was to fans who hated that version of professional wrestling, even though that version, for better or for worse, is a version that has stood the test of time, certainly. Now, there are some who felt Dunn was rash and rude at times, but in the post-Vince McMahon exit, before his return and the sale to Endeavor, Dunn's reputation had softened among some in the production circles, feeling it was a sign that Dunn was, that as hard as Dunn was on them, it was probably a reflection of how hard McMahon was on Dunn privately. Nevertheless, certainly, again, it's certainly a massive exit and a real departure from the company. The question as to who, if anyone, is going to replace him, especially since the person so many believe would be that person, Michael Mansory, left WWE years ago and now holds a similar position in AEW, remains to be seen. Now, PW Insiders say they're told that if anything, it would likely be a mix of people sharing the responsibilities that Dunn once shouldered himself. Of late, PW Insider has been told that Dunn had stepped back a bit and was allowing others to spread their wings and handle more responsibilities in the Endeavor era, so that may have been in advance of Dunn knowing that he was planning on leaving. Of course, it does leave with a very interesting proposition and question: what will the WWE production style look like post Kevin Dunn? Will it veer back into a sports-orientated style under Paul Levesque? That answer will soon be answered, but certainly we'll have to wait and see. So what are your thoughts on this story? What are your thoughts on where WWE is going to be going from a production point of view? Do you celebrate this? Are you saddened by this? Let me know your thoughts about it as well. Now, Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp kind of provided a bit more of details surrounding this story. Now, they say they reached out to WWE. They haven't heard back on the matter. They do say that they spoke to several Shock talent who had no idea of the move. Some in WWE think that his role will likely be divided, as several have trained in aspects of Dunn's role. Mike Mansory, as I mentioned, who's now in AEW, was once considered the natural successor for the role. Those that Fightful immediately heard from said that Dunn's say had decreased over the last year plus, and that anyone taking over those roles would likely not have anywhere near the power that Dunn once had. Fightful also say they've heard as of late that Dunn had missed more shows than usual. There were some in the company who believe that some of the older guard of WWE would be scaled back in future months, and believe that this is a major chip to fall. So this could be really the beginning of the end for a lot of mainstays of the Vince McMahon era, but certainly significant news. What are your thoughts and reactions to all of this? Let me know, as always, in the comment section below. Now let's talk about AEW World's End last night. Of course, we now know who the devil is. It's Adam Cole, as most people were probably expecting. And the devil has been revealed, baby. AEW World's End went off the air in shocking fashion as Samoa Joe knocked out AEW World Champion, then AEW World Champion MJF, in order to become the new AEW World Champion. Once Joe took off, Adam Cole then entered the ring to console his best friend in the wake of his devastating loss. Before long, four masked men appeared at ringside and quickly entered the ring to take on both MJF and Cole. Three of the masked men held Cole and MJF down, while one stood in the middle of a chair ready to strike the other one. The lights then went out and came back on to reveal Cole sitting in the chair with the four men standing behind him. Seconds later, they all removed their masks to reveal themselves as Roderick Strong, Mike Bennett, Matt Taven, and Wardlow. They continued to beat MJF down while Cole watched, seeing as though his foot is still apparently injured. Regardless, Adam Cole is indeed the devil. The seeds were planted for really all five of these men to be involved for several weeks. Wardlow has been calling for a shot at MJF's world title since recently returning, while Strong in the Kingdom constantly accused MJF of being the devil himself. It seems Cole has his reasons for turning his back on his foe turned brochacho, though we've yet to learn the complete motivating factor behind the decision. One thing's for sure, Cole has officially sided with his former partners in Strong, Bennett, and Taven, while adding a powerhouse like Wardlow to the mix. What are your thoughts on the reveal of Adam Cole as the devil? Many expected it. Is this the right move? Were you expecting a bit more of a swerve of someone else? What are your thoughts on the reveal? And what are your thoughts on AEW World's End as well? Let me know your thoughts about that as well. Now, we spoke about this as part of that story, but Samoa Joe is officially the brand new AEW World Champion. Samoa Joe really upset the Long Island faithful as he captured the AEW World Championship from MJF at World's End last night. MJF defended his 407-day title reign in his 12th overall title defense against Joe, a rematch of their Dynamite Grand Slam title bout in September, but the task proved to be insurmountable for MJF in the face of his recent injuries. MJF was joined by his former Ring of Honor tag team title winning partner Adam Cole at ringside, who would prove to be instrumental to the result as he fumbled the Dynamite Diamond ring in trying to give the champion an advantage. Joe would capitalize on that slight hiccup, locking in the Coquina clutch, though for a brief moment MJF looked to have snatched the victory with a roll-up, but Joe reaffirmed his submission for the referee stoppage. Even referee Bryce Remsburg was surprised by the result before calling for the stoppage, and the crowd didn't seem to really know how to react. Joe then walked out with the world title while MJF lay broken in front of his hometown crowd. Certainly, again, a big result for Samoa Joe winning his first AEW World Champion. Now, it must be said, many did expect MJF to drop the championship at World's End last night because he's pretty banged up and needs time to heal up. Now, according to Sean Ross Sapp, many that Fightful spoke to immediately following AEW World's End said they expect MJF to be off television for a while immediately, if not almost immediately. MJF had sustained a plethora of injuries during his AEW title reign, but was adamant that he wanted to see it through. As MJF is often influential in his own creative, there's always a chance he could insist on an absence not happening, but it is expected internally. MJF has long said that his AEW contract is up at the beginning of 2024, He's not told anyone any different, but WWE sources have claimed they've not had conversations with him, though there was interest as recently as a year ago. However, most in AEW believe that he re-signed well over a year ago, actually when he came back in September of 2022, though he'd never admit as much to anyone. As I mentioned, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Matt Taven, and Mike Bennett and Wardlow were revealed as the Devil and his associates to close World's End. Now, when it comes to the AEW World Championship, well, Samoa Joe has mentioned that he's got one change in mind straight away for his world title. He'll be ditching the Triple B, the Burberry-patterned AEW World Championship belt that's been carried by the former champion for the past year. Samoa Joe said, quote, "This is going in the garbage. Don't worry about that. This is trash right here. This little knockoff BS Gucci stuff that he has going on. This is going away. We're getting the good bout, the right bout, something that is designed well. I've spoken with Tony intensively about it, and we're very much looking forward to it. We have a whole new era we're starting." Samoa Joe went on to add that he had more good news to announce, including how he planned to immediately begin representing AEW within the extended Warner Brothers Discovery universe, saying, quote, "I'm here to announce we're starting our partnership with WB Games. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, starring myself. We are definitely in some cross-promotion with them. Game coming out at the end of January. We have some big things coming up with that. Warner Brothers is crazy. They finally have a champion they can show to the world with pride and respect. Everything is really fantastic right now." Now, speaking of the title, Samoa Joe is actually being pretty genuine when it comes to this world title, and it's changing. Of course, most people are assuming that, it's just going to go back to the regular version of the AEW World Championship as opposed to the Triple B. As you can see right here, Samoa Joe has actually been quite genuine when it comes to changes about the AEW World Championship. We're not just reverting to the previous version. There are going to be some minor tweaks. One of the big changes that Fightful have heard about is regarding a new or altered, probably the best word is altered, AEW World Championship. Now, Fightful haven't heard if the title is going to be a completely new design, but there has been steps taken to make some alterations to it. Now, recently, Clemson defeated Kentucky in a match, and Tony Khan presented Clemson with a customized world title with Clemson side plates. Now, Fightful have been told there's at the very least some side plate options for the upcoming version of the championship. AEW has also had plates produced for Kentucky had they won the game. The version that Fightful also has been featuring, and you can see it on the screen right there, has actually a black background behind the AEW logo. So again, some minor tweaks and alterations to the AEW World Championship. Would you like to see more changes? Would you like to see a different design? What are your thoughts on the slight modifications to the World Championship side plates and also sort of a more blacked out design when it comes to the World Championship? Do you like that? Don't you like that? Let me know your thoughts as always in the comment section below. Now, Andrade. There was a lot of drama going into AEW World's End last night, and one of the biggest dramatic stories was Andrade. Now, he faced up against Miro at World's End. Now, one of the biggest stories coming out of the match in terms of storyline was that CJ Perry and Miro have reunited. In the second match of AEW World's End, Miro and Andrade El Idolo clashed to settle their AEW Collision feud that also involved the former Lana as Andrade's manager. Miro looked to have won it at one point when he trapped Andrade in his game over submission. However, Andrade made it to the ropes to break. Perry yelled at Miro quite often and even threw up her infected but wrapped middle finger early on. Despite the conflict, Perry interfered on Miro's behalf when he was trapped in Andrade's figure four. Perry swiped Andrade's arms out from underneath him without the referee seeing it. Miro then capitalized by superkicking Andrade for a near fall before applying the game over one more time for the submission victory. Now, the timing of this was certainly significant because there are a lot of reports that came out earlier on in the day suggesting that Andrade was done with All Elite Wrestling. Now, this first came from Wrestle Purists. Just before, actually, the show last night, it was an exclusive that was reported from them, that it was recently reported by Dave Meltzer that many in WWE had expected Andrade to return to the company. And in fact, Mike Johnson, a PW Insider, said yesterday that there had been talk within AEW that Andrade's deal was up with the company very soon. Now, Wrestle Purists were reporting that upon asking about the situation, multiple sources within All Elite Wrestling revealed that Andrade was expected by many in the company to wrap up his stint in AEW last night at the World's End pay-per-view. The belief among many in AEW is that he actually could swiftly make his way back to WWE, with some suggesting it could happen as early as the day one edition of Raw. That's tomorrow night on USA Network. Now, when speaking to a WWE source, they were aware of all of the talk surrounding Andrade and even expected him to be joining the company imminently. Of course, it has been reported by Fightful recently that WWE are in, 1 yard line talks with a former WWE champion to appear on Raw tomorrow night. Triple H almost appeared to confirm as much in a post on his social media. So many assumed with these reports about Andrade leaving and him finishing up with AEW last night that would be Andrade, a former NXT champion, a former United States champion. Well, we've actually got more details on really what's happened when it comes to Andrade's end in AEW, and it's pretty sour stuff. Now, as I mentioned, PW Insider and Wrestle Purist also reported details that Fightful Select confirmed last night about how things stand with Andrade going into World's End. Now, Fightful Select learned this week that Andrade and AEW were set to no longer work together, with most expecting it to culminate at the World's End show. Numerous sources indicated that Andrade made it clear this past Wednesday at AEW Dynamite that he no longer wanted to be with the company and was planning on leaving. Fightful have been told that the situation surrounding Andrade's exit was less than pleasant, with some even saying a major disagreement had unfolded. WWE sources had been told by those close to Andrade that his deal wouldn't be up until at least the spring, but many that Fightful spoke to in AEW expected his deal to be up imminently. Now, there were many, both AEW and WWE, that expected him to head back to WWE. Fightful was able to learn of the internal chatter about a potential return to WWE at the Day 1 edition of Raw, which Triple H has also teased. However, one source that Fightful spoke to says that they seemed quite befuddled at the idea that it would be Andrade without outright denying it. It's unlikely they would confirm such a thing, considering Andrade is still with AEW, basically saying, why would Triple H tease the return of a talent that was still under contract to AEW? That wouldn't be a good look for WWE when it comes to legalities and things of that nature. But if you're looking for a departure when it comes to AEW, well, Tony Khan directly addressed the departures of several AEW staff ahead of the new year. Tony Khan commented on the departure of QT Marshall, noting that he would always be welcome to return for his return, and any wrestling company in the world would be very lucky to have him. Also commenting on another end of the year departure, Tony Khan revealed that Andrade El Idolo's contract is indeed up at the end of the year. While Tony Khan seemed to allude that he expected a departure from El Idolo, he had only positive things to say about the star, while noting that they had not come to an agreement on an additional contract. Khan noted that he has a ton of respect for Andrade El Idolo, and if that was his last match in AEW, he left on a very high note with great performances in the Continental Classic and since the beginning of AEW Collision. Also noting the departure of Raphael Morphy, who appeared to be in the room, Tony Khan wished him well in his new position. So a lot of change in AEW right now and a lot of departures certainly. What are your thoughts on Andrade El Idolo? A possible exit for him from AEW? Do you expect him to be at Raw tomorrow? And is that good enough to be a former WWE champion at Raw, or is that a bit underwhelming? What are your thoughts about his run in AEW too? Let me know your reaction to all of that in the comment section below. Eddie Kingston wins the inaugural Continental Classic tournament at AEW World's End. During the World's End pay-per-view on December 30, former partners and rivals Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston battled it out to determine the winner of the inaugural AEW Continental Classic. As noted, Moxley won the Gold League, while Kingston won the Blue League for the right to defend his Ring of Honor World and New Japan Strong Openweight Championships, while also vying to capture the first AEW Continental Championship crown. Bryan Danielson joined commentary for the bout that saw Kingston hit a risky dive out of the ring that resulted in him bouncing his head and neck off the ringside barricade. Kingston was able to shake it off, but it led to Moxley dictating the pace for a bit as the double champion recovered enough to clobber him with clotheslines. In the closing moments, Moxley and Kingston slugged it out until Kingston clocked him with the Hurricane, the spinning back fist. Kingston went for the cover and scored a 3 count in order to win the tournament. Obviously, this is the inaugural Continental Classic. It's the modern Triple Crown, fusing the New Japan Strong, Ring of Honor, and Continental Championships together. So congratulations to Eddie Kingston. Now, we did have a new TNT champion last night, and we got another one as well. Stay tuned for this one. Challenging for his first gold in AEW, Adam Copeland wasted no time in attacking the champion Christian Cage, who was flanked by Nick and Shayna Wayne, could barely get his title belt off his waist in time to defend himself from the Rated R superstar. Ultimately, that upfront aggression and Copeland's efforts in the match, which resulted in securing the TNT Championship, mattered not, as the former Luchasaurus, now Killswitch, who earned a TNT title shot in a 0-hour battle royal, came to the ring after the bout to cash in, only to surrender the contract to Cage, who speared Copeland and got his title right back. The longtime friends turned enemies, then friends again, now enemies once again, took the fight through the Nassau Coliseum crowd, with Copeland hitting a splash spot off the top of the balcony, firing punches down on the ramp, walking the ringside barricade to hit a clothesline, and much more. Though they did once again make it back into the ring, that didn't last long, with Cage ultimately busting Copeland open on the stairs with a stomp to the neck. Cage then choked a bloody Copeland with a kendo stick on the ropes and spiked him in the throat before a pin attempt to no avail, with the crowd consistently chanting TLC and the combatants doing their best to, I guess, offer TLC with some tables, some ladders, some chairs, kendo sticks, and metal pipe fire, and on and on and on. The match delivered in terms of intensity, to say the least. Copeland's first AEW gold seemed to give people what they wanted as well, but in the end, Cage walked out with the same belt he had coming in, and with much more to tell in surely a very long-term story with many moving parts. What were your thoughts on the finish to this one, with Copeland winning and then losing, and Luchasaurus, kill switch, surrendering his title opportunity? What did you make of all of it? Let me know your thoughts about that as well. Now, obviously, this match had a ton of controversy going in, or certainly a lot of spotlight going in regarding the internal and social media chatter with Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, his former protege Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Sting defeated AEW World Tag Team Champions Ricky Starks and Big Bill, and the Don Callis family, that being Konosuke Takeshita and Powerhouse Hobbs, during last night's World's End pay-per-view. Sammy Guevara got the victory for the team by hitting the GTH and then a shooting star press to Starks. The match marked Guevara's first one since he suffered a concussion at Wrestle Dream back in October. It's worth noting that at Wrestle Dream, Guevara was a member of the Don Callis family, and in a match against Jericho. It wasn't until this past Wednesday on Dynamite that Guevara made his return and decided to leave the stable, aligning himself back with Jericho. Now, the World's End match was originally supposed to be an AEW World Tag Team title match with Starks and Big Bill defending their titles against Jericho and Kenny Omega, but of course Omega is sidelined indefinitely after suffering with diverticulitis and being hospitalized. Julia Hart is still the TBS champion after retaining her championship last night at World's End. She retained her title over Abaddon in a World's End House Rules match, which includes a 20 count on the floor, no rope breaks, and disqualifications in force. The challenger also selects their own stipulation, which saw Abaddon make biting legal. Hart made the use of the removal of rope breaks to choke Abaddon during the bout. The challenger replied by making use of her own stipulation as she bit Hart's arm to break the submission. During the struggle, Hart grabbed the referee so Sky Blue could get involved before bailing under the ring. Abaddon gave chase to Blue and attacked her, but the distraction allowed Julia Hart to ram Abaddon into the steel steps repeatedly, dragging them into the ring and securing the pinfall with a moonsault press. Obviously, again, Julia Hart has been champion since winning the championship all the way back at Full Gear. Finally, we saw Swerve Strickland defeat Dustin Rhodes. Now, you might say, oh, and that match wasn't advertised for the show, so why did it happen? Well, Keith Lee was pulled from the show at the last minute. Keith Lee was removed from the show at the last minute after failing to get medically cleared to compete. Now, obviously, the Limitless One was due to meet his arch-rival Swerve Strickland to reignite the feud they started when Strickland turned heel on Lee back in 2022. Unfortunately, Tony Khan took to social media to announce that Lee wasn't medically cleared by AEW doctors and will be replaced was replaced by Dustin Rhodes, of course, his naturally limitless tag team partner. Now, Khan's announcement followed an earlier post by Lee on social media revealing that he had actually been working through an undisclosed injury since Dynamite Grand Slam in September of 2022. Lee said that the injury had been recovering well, but it had worsened over the last month, and he couldn't promise he could get through the day. He said, quote, "I keep it very real with you guys. I've been working through an injury since Arthur Ashe Stadium 2022. It's been mostly well taken care of. Things have been worse since Final Battle. I'm trying to get through today for you guys, but I cannot promise anything." So once again, that Swerve Strickland Keith Lee singles match still remains not happening. Now, the match in question involving Swerve Strickland and Dustin Rhodes last night saw Strickland attacked Rhodes before the match even began. Strickland would ultimately render Rhodes helpless on the outside, placing his left leg on a cinder block and smashing it, with AEW officials then looking to take Rhodes backstage and end the match almost right away before Rhodes refused and re-entered the ring and gathered himself just in time for the bell to ring and Swerve to quickly pounce once again. Dustin would rally, hitting a crossbody on Strickland for a near fall before a series of trademark strikes that led to an advantage in the corner. From there, Rhodes hit a Canadian Destroyer and a snap power slam, hitting the Golden Globes in the corner and then the crossroads from which Strickland was able to kick out and regain momentum. In the end, Swerve smashed Rhodes' arm, connected with a head kick, and finished things with the Swerve Stomp to secure the victory. The Natural hung in there far longer than many people expected, but ultimately Strickland's surge continued. But there you go, guys. This latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.